Okay guys, here's a little more info on that 42 night flyer. It's a 42 TL that I'm making for Adam up there in Lake Havasu. I've gone through and I've made a cap for the top of the motor mount. Basically, when I originally did this motor mount, I've taken the razor knife for this foam and I basically traced around the motor mount, and then I took the razor and I sliced out, and then I worked it this way and that way to get all the foam out, and then I set that motor mount in there. So basically, all you have to do is trace this motor mount, make a slight slice on both sides, and then work it back and forth to get it out. And then once that motor mount's in its right place, it's level plane, which is basically a line drawn from the trailing edge to the tip of the nose. That's the plane that that motor mount sits on. After that, I went through and I made a cap, and then all I'm going to do now is go ahead and take a razor and start high, but work my way back and forth, and then slice that down until I have it perfectly even flat, and then I'll do the rest of the cutout with the cutout tool. I've gone through and made a bulkhead in here just out of some clear coroplast, 4mm, just because this area was going to be really thin between the two bays, so I do that sometimes. It makes it nicer, and then I can end up just poking a hole through here for the battery wires to get through this. And then what's going to end up happening is right here, all my wiring for my lighting is going to end up, the circuits are going to end up starting and dropping into this bay area in here and get tied into the lighting eventually here. And then, you got those areas all the way around the edges where the lights are going to get dropped in all the way around. But if you notice, the top of this lid has a piece of 256 rod slid in it. I always put a piece of 256 rod in the end of the lid here just to help it with some strength, and also have a little bit of a area where the magnet ends up sticking, because I'm going to do is embed a magnet down here and then embed a magnet down in here, so when this lid goes down I'll have magnets hot glued right up to that. And what's nice about having that piece of metal in there is I can put hot glue on the magnet and then stick it right to that metal, and then basically go ahead and close it right down, and that lets the hot glue dry in the right place. And you'll also notice the first flute is clear here, but the next flute on the part of the lid that stays stationary, I have a piece of 256 rod that runs in that flute and basically keeps this lid in place and gives it extra strength. So if you do crash it, the battery bay doesn't get ripped open. This gives it some extra strength on its hinge point. And basically just went through and put the lid down. It's hot glued all the way around these edges here, and it's put on a shelf. You can see the shelf that kind of goes all the way around. There's an indented shelf that this lid sits on all the way around. It's about 1/4 inch all the way around. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and glue this lid right here. This lid goes right on. I cut the holes within the lid. I don't cut the lid in half and flip it open anymore. So basically the receiver is going to go in here, and what I end up doing is I always put my speed control way over to one side so none of this has any issues here. And then what I'll end up doing is dropping in a separate receiver pack in here, because anything that goes over 80 miles an hour, I always use a separate receiver pack. So there's going to be probably a 2S 600 to 1200 LIFE cell in here that's going to be used to feed my receiver here. And what I'll end up doing is running short pieces of wire from both of those on a mini Deans or a JST, and I'll be able to plug in those in when every time I want to use the receiver or charge the receiver, I pull the wires out here in front of the battery bay and charge them, and then when I plug the battery in to energize the receiver, I just tuck them in along with the rest of the battery wires. So it's kind of low down on this part of the build. This motor mount, I already have it glued in, and basically I'll go through and cut the lights out. I'll get the lights in the next video, kind of give you guys an idea of how I'm going to do the lights in this model. I just want to kind of give you the lowdown on doing these night flyers, because they're all pretty much the same. You can get as fancy as you want and put your lights however you want. On this airplane, I'll do one wing one color and one wing the other color. I don't do one color on the whole wing, and I've gone through and I put a slot on each side for the wingtip lights that'll be tapped in on both sides of these. So it's kind of low down on this whole thing. And if you have any comments, let me know. I can get some more video on any of the questions that you guys might even have. So thanks a lot, guys.